Happy Monday and welcome to Casting the Net, Reeling in Holistic Health, where we care about your mental health and well being. I'm your host, Coach Rice, and I want to make sure that you tune in every Monday at 8 a.m. Central Standard Time, where I have my special guest on to talk about real issues that matter most. I want you to check us out on YouTube, Facebook Live, on Business Facebook page, also on the Be Awesome Network. Stay tuned. I think you're going to really like this next guest. Well, happy Monday and welcome to Casting the Net, where we care about your mental health and well being. I am your host, Coach Rice, and with me I have Dr. Matt Campbell. He is a clinical psychologist who helps people build sustainable self care without the burnout or guilt. That's great. He focuses on why motivation fades, why people struggle to stay consistent. Oh my God, that is the ongoing thing. And how simple structure rather than perfection supports mental and physical well being. And so, and he, Dr. Campbell is also the co-creator of our Primal Five. We're going to find out about that framework that's centered around five foundational areas of health: sleep, sunlight, movement, social connection, and consumption, which I think we all can use some advice on that because we have come to a place where we're so disconnected. And so, Matt, tell us, where you from and how did you gain this passion around this particular topic around consistency?
Well, I've been doing clinical work, doing psychological work for over 20 years. And one of the things that I found with people that I was working with again and again is that we want to focus in my work, people want to focus absolutely on emotional functioning and helping to reduce pain and improve joy and increase joy and contentment. uh, what I found time and again is one of the obstacles to getting into that work had to do with not taking care of some of the most basic parts of being a human. And it was very difficult until we started focusing on those for people to really experience the improvement they desired.
So if I'm not taking care of my primary needs, is what you're saying, it's going to be hard for me to gain some type of consistency and structure.
Absolutely. Absolutely. If we're not taking care of the basics, then we're often getting lost in trying to pursue, improving ourselves in other healthy ways. We're really limited when we're not taking care again of these basics of getting outside, of sleep, of moving, of being connected with people, of watching what we put in our minds and bodies. When we're not taking care of those, we're going to have a really, really difficult time addressing other things.
I can kind of see that. What would you say the difference is between motivation and structure?
Well, motivation is something that people talk about a lot. They talk about really, wanting to want to, essentially. And when we are motivated to do something healthy, that is fantastic. It really makes that change easier. And so when we can kind of slide with that motivation, it's great. The problem for all of us is going to be just like any emotion, motivation is going to fade. And so the easiest example of that is the New Year's resolution, where someone is thinking of something they want to change. Usually it's going to be health, it's going to be, what they eat or exercising and things like that. And so they're really excited and they're really motivated, and they get after it for that first week, maybe two. And then that's when the majority of New Year's resolutions are gone. And the thing is that we're relying on that excitement and that motivation to get us there. And when that fades, all of a sudden we're thinking, well, I'm really tired. It was a long day at work. I'm not going to do that workout. Or, well, I'm just going to eat this stuff, today, which is fine to make a slip. That's part of the deal. But a lot of times it snowballs on us. So the structure part is trying to set things up in a way and get some consistency, trying to make the better decisions, the healthier decisions easier on us. Because once we have that structure and routine, it's not about having to make good choices all the time. It just becomes, this is part of what I do.
So it sounds like if it ain't just about saying, putting it on the vision board, I want to, my goal is New Year's resolution is to do this. It's about also making a decision. Sound like it's a decision to put in like some type of structure in place for the habits that can lead to actually making that part of my life successful, right?
It is. It's really that intention. It's really that focus on this is what I'm going to do. And I want to set myself up with the best chance for success. And so that involves a number of things. One of them, though, is setting up structure because when everything is a choice minute by minute, it gets difficult because our emotions are going to kind of pull us in ways that are kind of more short term, focused. It's trying to get that thing right now that's just going to feel better right now. Well, usually, as we all know, the thing that's going to make me feel better right now is usually not going to be the healthiest decision for me. And so that structure and that consistency and really trying to set it up in a healthy, positive way allows us to that it increases our chances at making much better choices and decisions.
So, Dr. Matt, why do people say lack of motivation? Why do they really go there?
Well, I think it's kind of I think a lot of times it's a misstatement. I don't think that anyone can stay motivated all the time. So to say it's a lack of motivation, I think is usually not accurate. I think what it is it's we're not set up to make the changes, and also we're not recognizing parts of the change process that are just we have to accept. We have to accept that we're going to be uncomfortable. Any change in life will involve discomfort. And if we kind of operate on that thing where it's like, well, if it's uncomfortable, that means something's the matter. Well, no, when we make healthy changes, we're going to be uncomfortable because we were doing what we were doing for a reason. And so, if I go to a gym and I walk out of the gym feeling exactly like I did when I went in, what does that mean?
Hmm.
It means I didn't do anything, right? Because, I should probably be a little sore or sweating or out of breath or something like that because we know when that happens, well, I did something, right? I pushed myself. I was, creating some change by exercising and feeling these ways. But if I walk out feeling the exact same way as I walked in, well, then I think most of us would think, "Oh, I didn't really do anything." And that's just one example of how change will involve discomfort. So if we're looking for a way, that's why people like that excited, motivated part of the process is because it feels good. We have that excitement, things like that. But if we're really going to sustain a change, we have to accept that there's going to be discomfort. We also need to accept that we're going to slip at times. We're not going to be perfect. No one is perfect. It's an impossible thing. So allow yourself to have slips, allow yourself to make a mistake, and then get back after it. If you do that, you're actually strengthening the change because we're going to do that. And so it's strengthening it in that, okay, I'm going to fall down, but I'm going to get back up and I'm going to keep moving in that direction. And all of a sudden, over time, when we do that, that behavior that we're engaged in at that time is now stronger. It's more strongly conditioned in us.
Does it make a difference in how long you move? You may fall, but you get back up. Do it make a difference on how long the waiting period is to
Well,
stay consistent?
I think that we want to do it as soon as possible, right? So we don't,
Right.
what I'm really speaking to, I guess, is okay, I was in a rush and I grabbed some fast food. Okay. Life happens.
Okay.
Life happens. Let's get back on it the next meal. let's get back on it. I didn't exercise yesterday. Okay, let's try to get after it tomorrow. Let's do that. I had a bad night of sleep because I was looking at a screen, until I closed my eyes. Okay, lesson learned. I mean, the thing is mistakes and times that we're not doing it like we want to. Those are learning opportunities, really, if we take them that way. Like, okay, what made that more difficult? What led to that? And so that's how we're strengthening change by accepting that there are going to be slips.
That is true. All or nothing thinking doesn't work in that particular
Absolutely.
area. And so when you
That is
what are some of the other hidden like things that sabotages consistency?
Well, I think that one of them, to kind of expand on it, is to recognize that change is something that is a gradual process that's going to involve dips, it's going to involve plateaus. It's like when you're climbing a mountain, it's not straight up like this 45-degree angle straight up. It involves plateaus and dips and then, some real inclines and things like that. And that's like change, is that we need to be mindful that for example, when I'm working with my clients, if someone makes just this super rapid change, like really fast improvement, kind of going from, 0 to 100. Well, I love that for them, but I am a little hesitant in terms of what's going on, because that's not how change typically occurs. It's not a switch that we flip. It's something that, we move towards, we have struggles at times, we keep moving, and that's change. So I think that that's a really important part of it, is just allowing ourselves that process.
So it's sort of like a
It's a-
journey that you're on where you have the ebb and flows.
Absolutely, that is going to be it. And we're just trying to continue to head in the healthy direction, and treat ourselves kindly, but not kindly in the way that it's like okay that we don't take care of ourselves. Just
Right.
recognizing we're human.
I can see that how if you don't have structure, how it can definitely sabotage your level of consistency because you have no system in place. Um, but you know, how do you help people shift from chasing motivation to building
Mhm.
something sustainable? Because that's where people struggle.
Absolutely, it's where people struggle. And I think that, and this kind of feeds in to the self-care approach. It's really, I think of it more as keeping ourselves from being depleted. That we are just depleted because we're not taking care of the basics. We want to increase our
Mm.
capacity, handling and living our lives, and things like that. And so I think that when we're trying to do this, one of the things that helps, and I know that this really runs counter to what we think of a lot of the time, but if we're going to be as healthy as we can be, each one of us trying to be the healthiest we can be, one of the things that's going to help a lot is to reduce the number of choices we have. And that's one of the ways that structure helps. And so what I'm referring to there is that if every time I am about to do something, I go through what my different choices are, right? The chances that whatever feeling I'm having is going to lead me go up. And so what structure does, and trying to get consistent with what we do, is it's kind of like, this is just what I do. So for myself, the example I always give is that when I get up in the morning, I'm going to walk my dogs. I'm going to go 30, 45-minute walk with my dogs. That's what I do, right? And so my feet hit the ground, and I'm putting those leashes on them, and we're heading to take our walk. I don't wake up every morning saying to myself, do I feel like walking them today? Is that what I want?
Okay.
Because if I give myself that choice, what am I going to choose? I'm groggy, I'm still waking up, I'm kind of tired. Well, if I gave myself that choice, there's going to be a lot of time that head's hitting the pillow again. But instead, it's this is what I do. And so again, I know it really runs counter to the way we like to think is that, oh, I have all these choices. But choices, that's we got to watch out for constantly thinking of all the possible things that we can do. And maybe the main reason for that is we live in a world that has so many short-term options, so many easy buttons, so many things that make us feel good right now. And the things that make us feel good right now, a lot of the time are not going to be the best choices for us in the long run.
That is so true because I found myself in the morning. Um, I don't leave the house until I read the Bible. That's
Yeah.
just what I do. But when it
Yeah.
comes to like, okay, I got to go to the gym afterwards.
Uh-huh.
What you're saying is don't add choices to that. Just
Yeah.
add that to your, this is what I do.
Absolutely, and you talk about that. And I think that, my exercise life has been probably like a lot of people, there's been ups and there's been downs. But when I'm going in the right direction, again, I don't think, do I feel like doing it? I don't need to have like the theme music in the background and things like that. It's really about, okay, I'm taking those steps. I'm getting in that car to go to the gym maybe, or I'm doing these things. Again, I know it sounds crazy to some people, but I don't have to feel like doing something to do it. And I think that a lot of times we have this idea, well, I need to feel that way, or I don't feel that way. Okay, I mean, I get it. I have the same experiences, but if we're going to be healthy, it's one foot in front of the other, and that's not easy. I'm not trying to pretend it's easy, but it's really what's going to get us to the healthiest place.
Yes. And so what about, let's talk about your framework.
Sure.
Um, the five foundations. Tell us about those.
Right. And so where the idea kind of putting these five things together is that our ancestors, when our bodies came to be what they came to be what they are at a time where our ancestors, they were outside. They really lived out. I mean, that's where they were. They were outside. Um, they slept at night. It's the safest time to sleep, and we can't see in the dark and all that. Optimal time to sleep. They moved. They had to move to get supplies, to get food, to get things like that. They had to be together, right?
Hmm.
We are social creatures. We do not survive alone. So we needed our
Right.
tribe. Tribes are safety, connections, meaningful connections are safety. And then the things that they consumed, of course, they didn't have all obviously the screens we
All
have.
these choices.
Right, oh my gosh, constant choices. But then they didn't have any choice but to consume things that came from the earth, the natural things. Well, now we live in a time where doing these things actually requires us to be really intentional with them. Really aware that this is how I was made. And the closer I'm living within what my body was made to do, the better I'm going to be. And so, again, these things are getting outside, getting that sunlight, uh, getting that sleep, moving my body, making sure that I have connections, meaningful connections with people. And then I really watch what I put in my mind and body. I think it's real easy to think about our body. That's usually when we think about
Hmm.
consumption, we think about, what I'm eating, what I'm drinking, things like that. But now more than ever, that really involves what we're putting in our minds. We have all these sources of media. We have news that can just drive people nuts. We have social media, people's highlight reels and all these, different things that we're, being inundated with. And so it's really important for us to be careful, mindful of what we're consuming. So that's the framework. It's technology and the advances are fantastic. Um, but that hasn't changed the human. Like we still need the same things.
That is so true because if you put stuff, whatever you put in your body and feed it, you're gonna get a cause and effect.
That's right.
And so I find myself if I'm scrolling mindlessly,
Sure. Yeah.
I kind of get in a slump sometimes. So I don't do it because I don't like the feeling of it.
Right.
But it definitely plays a role, and it definitely plays a role in how we go about our day after we did something like that. I find it affects my sleep,
Hmm.
and then I don't the next day I don't want to. I can't function at full capacity.
Right. And that's the thing is it's like what we put in our minds, it really affects how we perceive our world. And that's one of the things, obviously, we see with media, with news and things like that. It really affects how people see each other in the world, or it makes people think the world's a lot more dangerous than it actually is because we're inundated with terrifying news. And, we were made to know, back our ancestors, it was knowing what was happening in our tribe or those around us.
Hmm.
And now we know what's going on the other side of the earth. And so I think it's really important. Now, the world has expanded, right? So it's understandable and it's good to be knowledgeable. It's good to understand what's going on in this world, but we can overdo it really easily. And that's what we have to watch out for.
So within your framework, what small step can listeners make to help them kind of stay on the right path and be consistent?
Well, one of the things that I think that people can do, I mean, obviously, and the way the workbook that we have is set up is it's a really, I think the first step actually everyone can take is just trying to be more aware of where they are in these different areas. For
Okay.
me, the two things that I have to be really attentive to are my sleep. And the other one is social media or screens, I should say. It's not as much social media as it's screens because, sometimes that Sunday morning thing when Apple sends me a notification on how much I averaged that week, I kind of shake my head at myself like, what are you doing? So those are the things that I know that I have to be really intentional with. And most of the others are pretty good. But I really have to work on those. So I think that kind of taking stock and trying to notice where our weak areas are is one. But if you're talking just in general about one, pretty straightforward, easy step to take, my recommendation would be when you wake up in the morning, whatever it is you're doing, if you're taking a walk like I do, that's good. Just get outside. If you have a morning coffee, then sit outside and have your morning coffee. But morning sunlight is so good for us. It sets our daily cycle, the circadian rhythm. It really helps with that. It'll help us with sleep because we're kind of letting
Mm.
our body know it's morning time. And so again, it helps with that circadian rhythm, mood benefits, a whole lot of things. So that's a great place to start, and I think it's a really accessible thing that we most all can do.
Wow, that's some good advice. And it's interesting. I have to be intentional about sleep as well. And
Sure.
it's because I don't know what it is about going to bed. I want to turn the TV on, and I have to be intentional about not doing that because it
Sure.
really does. And it's sad that I have to be intentional because the next day I feel it. But you would think since I feel it, it wouldn't be that way. Why do we do that?
Because it's honestly it's one of those things I think that we just need to recognize as humans. I mean, we're so alike, all of us. And but one of the things and that gets us into trouble is we're short-term oriented. Unless we're really
Mm,
focused on it, really focused on what we want for ourselves in the long term, we are short-term oriented. So listen, you are preaching to the choir right there. I wake up in the morning sometimes and I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I stayed up that late. I didn't even need to, right? And I'm telling myself, well, I tell you what, when I get home tonight, I'm winding down early. And then the evening comes and I'm like, well, hey, this is kind of fun. This is enjoyable, like, oh, I find something that's interesting to me. And before I know it, I have done it again. Because again, we're short term is it's like, yeah, it's enjoyable in that moment, so we keep doing it.
And it's just moving from short term to long term
That's right.
thinking so that we won't get caught up in that cycle.
Right. That thing that is just kind of natural for us, it's the short term, and then it's our tendency to want to maximize pleasure, minimize pain in that moment, that can get us into trouble.
So where's your workbook available on?
It's available on Amazon. We
Okay.
have a website, our primal5.com. So we have a website where there's a link for the workbook as well as a newsletter. We're coming up with an app or coming out with an app here
Oh,
in the
nice.
near future. Yeah. And the idea behind the app, and it may be available by the time people hear this, but the idea behind the app is that it's trying to help us be more aware of our strengths, our weaknesses on these, to give immediate feedback. It gives people a daily score. It lets them know kind of what trends they have, when they do this, how is their mood, what tends to either be a difficulty or a strength for them, things like that. There's going to be a buddy system where you can work on this with friends, kind of see their scores, they see yours, and you can kind of work together. So just trying to find some ways to give people feedback, knowledge, make it a bit of a game for themselves. Because these things, it's just, we know them, but when you look at the numbers in terms of how we do, it's eye-opening. It's really
Mm,
eye-opening. I mean, and we also know just how much of an effect they have, on emotional, which is my focus, but also, of course, physical functioning. And so, that's why it's my passion, is just trying our best to help each other out, to take care of these, because we're going to benefit if we do.
yeah, because the numbers don't lie.
Oh, they don't lie, and it's really kind of an amazing thing. It's amazing because there is nothing that I have said, I don't believe. Maybe I said it in a different way or what have you, but it's not stuff that we don't know. In fact, when I was doing the workbook, I had a desire. Other people kind of, told me it wasn't my best idea, but I almost called it "Do What Your Mama Told You," because it's just, these are things that we know, but again, it's, there was a white paper, so the government, they put out a white paper just indicating just how much of a problem loneliness is on our culture. I mean,
Oh, goodness gracious.
50 to 60% of people, are reporting loneliness. 60% of our calories come from ultra processed foods. A third of us aren't getting enough sleep. Um, 60% of us aren't meeting, basic recommendations for movement and exercise. And it just goes on and on. And so but I think that shaming people and saying, well, you need to do that, we're really missing we're missing the boat on that, is that these things, while we know them, knowledge does not equal behavior. So let's try.
Yes,
Yeah.
it doesn't. You are absolutely correct. You can have the head knowledge, but it is if it don't reach your heart of who you are, it just doesn't work.
Well,
And so,
oh, I'm sorry.
oh, go ahead, go ahead.
To the point that you're making there, I also think that one of the things that's difficult about getting after these things is the only thing that we know is our experience. And so a lot of people are accustomed to being sleep deprived. A lot of people are accustomed to being inside all the time in that climate controlled environment. and that is their normal. And it's tough to realize how much better things could be because we
Mm.
don't experience it. And, I think a lot of times that's why when the folks I work with come to me is that it's a struggle, is that we only start working on them when we notice they're a problem. When a lot of times we have no idea how much better things could be, how much greater our capacity could be in our lives until we actually feel it. I remember when I started eating a clean diet. Oh my gosh, I had no idea. I had no idea how much better my body could feel until I did it. And honestly, what helped me most to understand that is I was eating healthy and then I didn't eat healthy, and I had a day where I ate poorly, and man, did I
And you
feel
could feel it right away.
immediately I could feel it because all of a sudden my body was like, that I'm not supposed to have that.
Right.
Like I'm not made for that. But until we have that experience, we really can't appreciate um yeah, that a lot
Yeah,
of
because we start to feel normal being unhealthy.
that's
It's
it.
interesting how it's getting worse because you don't see, I don't know with my age, I'm telling my age, but we used to be outside playing hopscotch, jump rope, riding bikes,
Yeah.
playing jacks. I'm really telling my age. But you don't see a lot of kids outdoors like that anymore.
No, no,
And
yeah.
it's getting worse and where they're sitting in front of the TV and playing video games and social media. And unfortunately, they're not getting the basic exercises we used to get. I don't even know if elementary schools still have gym.
Well, sometimes it's just a day or two a week. That
Mm,
they have gym in like the elementary schools. I mean, I had PE until I was in high school.
right.
But my kids, I think right around the seventh grade, they stopped having that. If they played a sport, they would do that.
Hmm.
But yeah, I mean, it is, but again, with the kids and with the screens, they have grown up on them. And so it's so important for us as the adults, as the parents, to really try to move towards to encourage, these things because that is their normal, right? Just like I was
Right.
talking, sometimes our normal is not healthy. And so
Right.
the normal is, it has to do with screens. They don't know different. And that's not a criticism. It's just that's what they're accustomed to.
Right.
And so again, it's until we experience it. Like one of my kids, he went he went on this camp, this summer camp where, a bunch of kids and they're staying in cabins and they're outside and they're doing all this. I've never seen him happier than when he came back from that trip. And he said, when he got back, he's like, I'm done playing video games, right? Well, you want to know where he was 2 nights later?
Playing video games.
That's what his buddies are doing. And that's
Right.
they're having fun interacting, but goodness knows it's too much time, but really how he thrived when he was living in a way
Hmm.
with what we're supposed to do. It was amazing.
Yeah, because we have to have balance, in our lives, we have to have balance. And
Yep.
so, that being said, what is your onboarding process for your clients?
Well, my clients, I see clients for my my psychology practice because I do
Mm.
testing and I do psychotherapy. So that's local here. I'm in
Okay.
Oxford, Mississippi. So that part's local. So I don't do coaching or anything like that. For
You don't
me,
do you do virtual?
you know what? I don't. I
Okay.
don't virtual. I have found that is not a strength of mine. Uh,
Okay.
and I'm just someone who I like being in the room, with people is I am a, that just clicks with me more. Maybe I'm showing my age by saying that, it's just that's my good spot is
Right. Well,
in the room with a person. And so that's where I'm at my best. And
it
so
kind of aligns with what your belief is as well.
I'm I'm not that like I said, that's not my strength. And I'm glad that people do that. I really am. I think it makes it so much more accessible for a lot
Hmm.
of people, you know.
Yeah. And
Not
then you got some clients, it's cool because some clients like face to face. They don't want to
right.
be virtual. It's cool to have both, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And so what is one piece of advice that you would leave with the audience?
Well, the one thing that I would really say, I mentioned that aspect of, um, the sunlight and these kind of thing, it's important. I really would encourage people to, because the one thing I've noticed the quickest benefit from is find your connections, work on healthy, meaningful connections. And then the other part is, yes, you know it. I know it. We all know these things are healthy. Criticizing ourselves for struggling or not doing it is not going to help whatsoever. That is not the fuel you need. Understand that as humans, we weren't made for this world we're living in, and our
Right.
bodies are not made for it and for all these things. And so these are not easy things. Like so many things, we can know, what to do and what's healthy and things like that, but it's more challenging these days than ever to do it. So give yourself some grace in that regard, but still get after it.
I totally agree. Grace is important because the minute you beat yourself up, it's gonna put you in a cycle of and spiral out.
That's right. That's right.
So Matt, I am truly grateful, Dr. Matt, that you embraced us with your wisdom. His links to the book and his links to reach out will be in the video. And also, I'm sure this can help someone you actually know or yourself. Please do share, subscribe, because I always have amazing people on. And if this video was really something you enjoyed, please do comment that those things help. If it's something you want to hear more about, please do share that as well. But until then, we just say have a fantastic Monday. It's your time to shine. Your journey to chart. Coach Rice wisdom will heal every heart. So join us now. Let's make life suffice. Welcome to Mondays with Coach Rice.